Real stories, real insights, and quick takes that help your business grow. Welcome to the Fractional Take by Anjali Gupta.
Hi, everyone. Welcome again to the Fractional Take. A conversation with a startup founder yesterday got me thinking. And this wasn't just a conversation with him. This is a conversation that I've had with mid-sized businesses, with large enterprise CEOs, is the importance of showing up at large format forums. A lot of senior leaders still question the need for an Indian tech brand to show up at large format forums. Now, while I agree that perhaps not everybody needs to be there, it depends on what their objectives are. But it's certainly something to think about. Um, why is it that when global tech conversations are happening, whether it's around AI, digital infrastructure, data sovereignty, cloud, it's really the same global brands that are showing up visibly, very confidently, and at scale? Indian tech brands um, who are actually building at massive scale don't always show up, or they're showing up far more modestly. And it always makes me wonder, you know, is it just enough to be present where you believe you um, are generating leads, or do you also need to build presence? Because large format platforms, whether it's the promenade in Davos, whether it's the AI Impact Summit happening next week in Delhi, whether it's the NASSCOM Leadership Technology and Leadership Forum, these are not really just events. I call them influence arenas. They're arenas of influence. So I wanted to make a couple of points, right? Let me start with the most obvious one, which is signaling. When you take space or presence at a large forum, and this could be real space, right? A pavilion, a store, a keynote slot, a curated roundtable, you're making a statement. You're telling the market, look, we are not just part of this industry, we are helping shape where it's going. And in areas like AI or digital infrastructure, where trust, scale, resilience, all of these matter, that perception really travels very fast, sometimes faster than your actual capability story. The second thing that makes these forums extremely powerful is who you meet there. This is not always a typical conference audience. You're not just meeting buyers. Very important to note. You're not just meeting buyers, but you are meeting policymakers. You're meeting global CXOs. You're meeting sovereign funds, hyperscalers, startup founders, AI researchers. It is an entire ecosystem in one single place. And what would normally take you 6 months of travel and outreach will happen in just a couple of days of proximity. That density of access is incredibly powerful. So that density of access is what one needs to leverage, a brand needs to leverage. What I find very valuable, and I may have said this in an earlier podcast that I did, are the unscripted conversations, because the real discussions don't always happen on stage, or they don't just happen in a session. They happen when you're walking between sessions. It's someone you meet over coffee, it's at leadership dinners and closed door roundtables. And these conversations are very different. They're far more open, they're more exploratory. This is where you hear things like, or we're thinking of coming into India, or we're looking for infrastructure partners. We want to really co-build something sovereign, right? These are not sales conversations. They are conversations about the future, right? And so many long-term partnerships actually begin here, right? Another big advantage, especially for Indian tech brands right now, is narrative building. We all know, and we've heard this multiple times over the last year now, India is at that inflection point, right? We're talking about AI at scale. We are talking about data sovereignty frameworks. We're talking about digital public infrastructure, GCC expansion, AI-ready data centers. Really, I believe the entire world is watching India, right? And large forums give Indian companies the chance to anchor themselves to that national story, to align themselves to that national story. So India begins to be being seen as from more an IT services player to an AI cloud and digital infrastructure leader. So it's a very different shift in our positioning. Then, of course, there is also the whole ecosystem angle to this, right? No one builds AI alone. You need infrastructure, you need cloud, you need GPUs, platforms, applications, policy support. These kind of large format events are one of the few places where this entire value chain shows up together. So you're not just showcasing solutions, you're announcing alliances, you're launching joint offerings, you're making large announcements, you're releasing papers, you're demonstrating that what you can build, you can build, and you must build collaboratively, not in a silo, right? And finally, I think what all of my marketer friends would instinctively understand is that any experience creates a memory. Think about what stays with you longer, right? Something, an ad that you scroll past, or like an immersive experience that you actually undertook. What stays with you longer? A webinar you sort of attended while clearing email, or a dinner conversation with an industry leader? So, large format forums create that sensory brand experience, and these experiences build recall that last far beyond the event that you've attended. So, when a company asks me, or when a CEO asks me, or even when a CFO asks me, Anjali, what is the ROI of participating in something like this? I always feel like that question needs a little bit of reframing. This is not about event ROI. This is about influence ROI. Because what you're really gaining is market signaling, policy access, CXO conversation, opportunities of partnership and alliance, owning the narrative. You move from being seen as a vendor to being seen as a voice and an opinion maker. That's it from me today. See you in the next one.